And hello. Welcome to the .NET Community Stand-Up, the ASP.NET Community Stand-Up. And this is the first of a new thing we're doing, the Blazor monthly series. We're doing enough Blazor shows. It's like, why not just make it a monthly Blazor party? And so as part of that, super excited to welcome Safia as co-host of the Blazor Monthly Show.
Yay, so exciting.
So, and this is super fun today. We also have Anthony, and he's going to be showing off Azure Static Web Apps with Blazor. So we have tons of great, exciting stuff. As always, we start with the community links. So I'll hop on over to that. Whoop. Okie doke. As always, we share these out. So someone always asks, yes, we'll share them out. And actually, I can put them in the chat because why not? So here's the links I'm going to be sharing. And there's so much good stuff. I focused on Blazor stuff pretty much completely this week. So here's a few cool ones that I just saw come by. These are some, people are building tons of cool components. And so this is a grid. And I love seeing how people build these kind of more complex things. So this is a full grid with all kinds of searching and sorting and all that kind of stuff.
It's not just a grid. It's a blah grid.
Blah grid.
Blah grid.
Because Blazor. Yes. So cool. And then this one also, IndexedDB. So this is cool. IndexedDB is a browser, feature, and this is kind of a wrapper to run on top of that. So.
Nice.
Yeah, very cool stuff.
Maybe we should. Well, I know Steve Sanderson for I think it was Build. He did a demo like a car rental attendant app. And I think he wrote his own IndexedDB wrapper. So maybe we should update that sample now to use this thing.
There you go. Yeah. This is cool. So Christian with an update saying, and I know this is tiny type, Blazor REPL now supports multiple Blazor components. So there's a showcase here. And there's also just the whole Blazor REPL thing is pretty awesome. So this is like a full in the browser REPL thing, and you can get started doing Blazor stuff just like that. I think we lost Dan. I think it was too awesome for him.
It was just too great for him. He couldn't handle it.
So anyhow, this is neat. Congrats to Kristen and team. Okay, this is about, so Gerald, he's been doing some cool posts lately on Blazor, and this is on JavaScript isolation and Blazor components. So this is a theme that I've been seeing lately, and the whole kind of isolation, and there's the CSS isolation, and there's the I hadn't seen anything before. Welcome back, Dan.
Sorry.
So this is looking at JavaScript isolation. This is honestly one thing. JavaScript componentization moves quickly, and I have trouble keeping up with it. So I read this once. I'm going to need to read through this again personally, but this, I don't know, it looks interesting. And like I was saying, the whole theme of componentization. Either of you folks want to hop in on that? Or any of you?
Yeah. So this is actually, if you recall, during our last show, we had our intern McKinnon come and talk a little bit about some of the work that he did. Some of this JavaScript isolation stuff was actually, again, work that our intern McKinnon did. And it's been really cool to see some of the ways that people have been building on it over the past few months. We shipped it alongside CSS isolation, or maybe shortly after CSS isolation as one of the .NET 5 previews. So cool stuff. And again, another gift from McKinnon, our intern.
Very nice. Cool. All right, so let me see. I have too many screens and too many. Okay, this is just a small little call out. While we were waiting for the show to start, Dan reminded me that there's a community out on Reddit for Blazor. So this is neat. If you're part of the Blazor community, it looks like a cool place to kind of keep up with stuff. And
share some links, chat with the Blazor community. Yeah, it's a great place to hang.
We're discussing how some Blazor is happy Blazor, or excuse me, all Blazor is happy Blazor. Some Reddit is happy Reddit. Some Reddit is not happy Reddit. This seems to be a pretty happy Reddit.
This is a safe, happy, wonderful place to be. Yes. This is
very cool.
The good side of Reddit.
A good corner of the internet.
Yeah.
I'm not a heavy Reddit user, but I've enjoyed the Blazor Reddit community extensively.
I will say they're trying to sell me these pretty fabulous boots.
Those would be great on you, John.
We'll see if we get enough likes on this. Whatever. No, I'm not going to buy those boots. So this is cool. This is drag and drop uploading from Roman using input file component. So he's been doing some cool stuff just in general with input files and uploads and things like that. So this is cool to see wrapping input file. As I continue to try and keep up with the pace of Blazor and all the exciting things going on in Blazor land, the form components seem really worth spending some time on. Because I just naturally fall back to my old HTML ways and I want to hand code things, and then I see things like using input file or the different form wrappers seems to help out quite a bit.
And for the most part, they behave like the HTML equivalents. They just they give you some niceties on top of them to help you with validation, and it's basically validation is the main feature. But for the most part, you can think of them as their HTML equivalent and add the same attributes on them that you would add to the HTML equivalent. And that should just work.
I tried that recently. I was working on something. I'm like, could I put in I forget, it was a placeholder or something. I just typed the HTML and it all worked. So yeah, good stuff. It's so neat to see with this, the wrapping that to add in drag and drop support. So definitely, you need to write some code. But I don't know, pretty neat. So.
Yeah, drag and drop is one of those areas that we had actually hoped to do something about that in .NET 5. We didn't quite get to it. .NET 5 was a fairly compressed release for the Blazor team because of the Blazor Web Assembly release in May. But it is something that we've been doing some thinking on, and hopefully for .NET 6, maybe we'll have something in that area.
Cool. So to balance off with that previous one where it took a decent amount of code, this is under 10 lines of code for a simple tooltip component. And again, this whole thing, this theme of componentizing stuff. So there's plenty of stuff that you can do with browser standards, and it often can take a little bit of work, and you got to write some CSS and all that. So the componentizing here with the CSS for the tooltip seems really nice. So this is just a very simple, just dropping it in, and there you go. So
very nice.
Yep. All right. This is from Michael Washington. Pretty sure his name's Michael Washington. I forget when people put he's a deaf web server. He writes so much cool stuff. So this one is a simple survey. And so the idea here is, it's you can go through and you create a survey, and have different types. Ooh, can I type hello, add item, and then you can it's just a survey application. I actually played with this early on because I think it's an interesting kind of a, I don't know, space or a little problem, And he had written, this is just kind of to do a sort of non-trivial, build something out. So this is an example, and it shows also that the using claims and stuff, auth claims and administration. So there's a behind the scenes administration thing for that too. So.
And that is Michael Washington. That is some stuff.
Thank you. Cool. And last one here, John Hilton. And once again, wrapping cool stuff, making it Blazorified. So this is rendering diagrams in Blazor application. So this is using GraphViz. And we're fighting over who's sharing the screen. Let me share just the rest of this. So this is rendering a diagram, and all he's doing there. What's cool, GraphViz uses SVG. And so this is kind of the end result. So yeah, really neat to see that. Here's the dot file. DOT is the language that they use for that sort of thing. So I will share these links out, and I'm ready to pass over to Safia.
Yeah, sorry for taking the mic from you there, John. I was super excited for this next part. So this is something new that we're going to be doing as part of these community stand-ups, which is doing a monthly community spotlight to highlight the work of somebody in our community, specifically around Blazor. And so today I wanted to take the time to highlight a contributor named Juan. I believe he started participating in the Blazor development sprints last month. They've made a ton of awesome contributions. One of those that I'd like to highlight is actually something that landed in RC1, which is improvements to the reconnect overlay in Blazor server. If you've ever developed a Blazor server application, you might have noticed that sometimes if the circuit disconnects, you get this display that it's reconnecting, but it's not that helpful. So it was really great to see Juan take the initiative and ship some improvements to this. It includes the ability to see which reconnect attempt it's making, as well as an actual loader icon, so you know that something's going on under the hood. So again, thank you, Juan, for taking the time to make these improvements. It really helps improve the quality of life for everyone who's building on top of Blazor Server. Now, you're probably wondering, yes, let's clap for Juan. Cool. Now, if you're wondering, how can I get a chance to be showcased in a community spotlight where there's an opportunity for you? We have our monthly Blazor development sprints. They happen on the second Tuesday of the month. That means the next one is going to be this Thursday, actually, on October 8th. So you can go ahead and participate. You can find more information at aka.ms/Blazor sprints. It's super chill. It's basically an opportunity for you to work on some issues that we've labeled as new contributor friendly on Blazor. You can get help from the maintainers, myself, Steve, Pranab, and Javier, and maybe eventually see yourself on this community stand-up. So that's super awesome. Now, there's one last thing I want to leave you with, and it actually touches on something that Dan talked about a little bit previously around .NET 6. So I know we're about to ship .NET 5 GA in a few weeks, but we're already thinking about what we're going to do with .NET 6, and this is a great opportunity for you to make your voice heard about what should be prioritized and what you'd like to see happen in .NET 6. So how can you do that? You can go ahead and head over to the issues page on the ASP.NET Core repo. I've pasted a link to it here on the slide. And go ahead and just give a thumbs up or a comment on issues that you would like to see addressed for .NET 6. These can be bugs, new features, anything. Just give it a thumbs up or a reaction. And what that's going to do, it's going to help us see what you all want to see ship in .NET 6 and really help us with our prioritization for the upcoming release.
Yeah, so, and on the ASP.NET Core repo, we do look at these reactions as a way to help us prioritize items. We have noticed that though we don't get quite as many on that repo as we've seen on like the .NET Runtime repo, the Anti-Framework Core repo. We're trying to figure out what we can do to better engage with the community and hear your voice. So this is our invitation to participate more. If you have other ideas on how we can best encourage that participation, let us know as well. Just open an issue, give us your thoughts, because we want to hear from you. We want to make sure that we're prioritizing the right stuff for our next round of investment in .NET 6.
Yeah, awesome. And we pasted the link in the chat, so if you want to go and do your voting right now, you can do that. But now I would like to hand over the mic and the camera and the screen share to our guest this month, Anthony Chu, who is coming to us from the Azure Static Web Apps team. He's going to be sharing a little bit about some of the awesome things that you can do with Blazor and Azure Static Web Apps. So Anthony, I'm going to hand it over to you and go ahead and take it away.
Sounds good. Thanks, Safia. So I'm here to talk about how to deploy a Blazor Web Assembly app to Azure Static Web Apps. So Azure Static Web Apps was announced at Build. Initially, it was targeted towards web developers using JavaScript technologies, so things like React, Vue, and Angular, as well as being able to deploy a backend API really easily using Azure Functions powered by Node.js, so JavaScript. And at Ignite, we announced that we're now supporting the building and deployment of Blazor Web Assembly, as well as .NET Azure Functions for APIs. So that's pretty cool. I know Dan and others helped out a lot with that announcement. So it was a cross-team effort.
Great.
Yeah, it's amazing. So on the Azure Functions side, I'm also the PM of .NET Azure Functions as well. So I'm very excited to see this happen. So yeah, I'm just going to kind of dive into a few slides, kind of just talk about why we want to do this and why you want to deploy Blazor Assembly to Azure Static Web Apps, and then we'll just kind of spend the rest of the time doing a demo. How's that sound?
Sounds awesome.
All right. If I know how to advance my slides, it'll be even better. Okay. So like this is traditionally how you would deploy a Blazor app with ASP.NET Core today. So you have an ASP.NET Core app on the server, and its job is to serve up the Blazor app, as well as serve up any API endpoints that you might want to expose to your application. So most of its job is actually just serving the HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, and also the WebAssembly, and also the DLLs and all that stuff that make up Blazor WebAssembly in the browser to the browser. So, and then after it does that, it actually doesn't do a heck of a lot because most of the work is happening in the browser now. You have your .NET code running in the browser using Blazor WebAssembly. And then, once in a while, it'll make an API call to the server, and that's where the ASP.NET Core actually does some work. With Azure Static Web Apps, what you can do, and what we allow you to do is we provide you a way to kind of just really easily serve up a bunch of static files. And that's what a Blazor's WebAssembly app is. It's just HTML, CSS, some WebAssembly, some DLLs, and some JavaScript. So we let you serve that out really easily, as well as in a very scalable kind of a way. And then any APIs that you want to implement, you can just build a .NET or JavaScript Azure Function app to actually handle any of these API calls. So, so I want to kind of talk about some of the features of Azure Static Web Apps. So I kind of already talked about the static file hosting as well as the serverless APIs. One of the things that you also get with it is they both kind of live behind the same domain name. So you don't have to worry about cores or anything. Everything kind of gets served by kind of the same endpoint. If you kind of want to think about it that way. And it's really easy to build and deploy these things using GitHub Actions, and I'll show you that in a bit using in the demos. And then we support custom domains, so you can bring your own custom domain and add it to Azure Static Web Apps. And then we'll also give you a free SSL cert for it as well. So you don't have to do anything to get your custom domain working as well as your SSL certs. And then we globally distribute your static assets as well around the world. So, your users, no matter whether they're really close to you or somewhere on the other side of the world, they're able to access the static assets really easily or really quickly because they are globally distributed around the world. And then we also support really nice integrated authentication with social logins such as GitHub and Facebook and Twitter and things like that. And we also make it pretty easy to create some routing rules for your static web apps. So this is kind of particularly important for single page applications like Blazor or React or Vue, where you have these kind of client side routes that are only known to the client side application. So if somebody actually like bookmarks that route that happens to be in the browser and then they go to it, it's actually going to the browser is going to ask the server for that route, and it's going to be like, well, that's not there because that's not a real route. It's actually known only to the client side app. So you can actually set up what's called a fallback route, so that you can actually serve up your app no matter which route the customer or like the browser decides to hit. And then within the app that's served up, it'll understand how to actually navigate to that route. So typically that's pretty a pretty typical thing that you want to do in a static web app like this. So we make that pretty easy for you to do. And also with an app hosted on GitHub, quite often we get pull requests and things like that, either from the community or from other team members, or just yourself working on an app. So for every pull request, we will stand up a staging site for you. And then that staging site, you can actually kind of preview what your changes look like before you actually merge it to your main branch and have that deployed to the production application. So before I move on, I think that what's next is like a demo. Any questions from y'all?
I mean, just one comment. I guess it's like a lot of that stuff you were sharing on the previous slide. We've seen you could do this before, but you had to do it all manually, right? You had to go get your cert, and you had to renew your cert, and you had to set like the thing you were talking about with the wildcard routes. Like that's a pain in the neck, and it's always like, oh shoot, I got to deal with that. So these are so many things where it's just like kind of the easy button for getting this stuff going, it seems like.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so let's go jump to the demo. So the demo that I'm actually going to do is actually based on a pretty old demo by the ASP.NET team to kind of show off some of the capabilities of SignalR. So there's a ASP.NET core app here that's that basically will use the browser to take control of your camera and then turn your video image into basically a bunch of ASCII representation of your video, and then stream it to others around the world. So we're going to build the same with Blazor and Azure Functions and Azure SignalR Service. So to do that, I think I have, I'll kind of just quickly walk you through the app, and then we'll just go ahead and deploy it. And so the app is pretty simple. I have an API that's basically an Azure Function app. And here's the functions right here. The main part is this send frame async function. So all we're doing is that we're taking like 4 times a second in the browser. I'll kind of show you the browser side of things in a bit. We will send the ASCII representation of your video 4 times a second to this Azure function. And then this Azure function's only job is to take that frame and then send that off to Azure SignalR Service. And then your client-side Blazor app is also connected to Azure SignalR Service, and it's receiving all these frames. So the more people that are connected to this app, the more kind of video frames that you're seeing in real time. So this is like the entire function app itself, like 40 lines of code to do all this work. There's really nothing more to it. And then I'll kind of show you the Blazor Web Assembly side. So it's a pretty standard Blazor Web Assembly app. I literally just went on that new Blazor WASM, and it kind of gave me this app. Some of the things that the interesting parts are probably here in the index.razor page. So you can see I have some Razor happening up here, or Blazor happening up here. And then down here, I'm making a connection to SignalR Service. So this is the same SignalR library that you would typically pull in to a Blazor app. And so I'm just creating a hub builder, giving it the URL of my function app. And then I'm also setting up a handler. Whenever I receive a new frame, I will basically just add it to a list of frames. Probably could be done a better way, but this is the way I'm doing it right now. And then I'm just starting the connection. So that's all the work that we're doing there. And then there's a little bit more work done to kind of to do a little bit of JavaScript interop with the JavaScript library that I'm using to take control of the camera as well as to turn it into ASCII. But that's really all we're doing here. And then I guess the only other interesting part is whenever I get a frame, so this is basically the function in which I'm getting a frame. Where am I actually? I'm doing a post somewhere. That's a get. I swear I wrote this myself.
Down just
up higher. What? Am I posting something? I know I'm posting something.
It does seem to be working.
Video async.
There's a post.
Yeah.
I just saw a post.
It's time to control
Put it
F.
down there, but I saw a post.
Yeah, it was a post.
Okay.
There's a post.
There we go.
Yeah, the code is so simple. Yeah, like it's really not doing anything. So I'm like, so this is the JavaScript code calls this, gives it the ASCII string, and then I'm just building up in an object and just posting that to the Azure function. So pretty simple. And then the rest of it is just code. So, 100 something lines of code to build this app. So I'm going to go ahead and just show you how to run this locally, and then we'll deploy this. I'll start both the function app as well as the Blazor app. I think I started it. My machine's fan is going really loudly.
Yeah.
So I think it's working really hard.
That's part of the fun of live streaming too.
Yeah. Really test your machine's limits.
Yeah. So we're going to go ahead and just open up this thing. And hopefully it starts. Oh no, I don't think the function app was up yet. So let's try this again.
That looks better.
So there we go. Hey, John is there already. So you're using the one on, so it's connected to the same Signal service as the one that we're going to kind of demo live for everyone. So
nice.
John's found his way in. So this is how kind of how it works. So yeah, so this is the app that we're going to deploy now. Any questions before we kind of start deploying? Actually, maybe let's start deploying first, and then we'll answer some questions while we kind of wait for things that happen in the cloud. All right, so to deploy the app, I have it's already pushed to my GitHub repo. So if you kind of go to Anthony Chu /serverless streamer Blazor, I'm going to deploy this demo branch. I have a few other branches on here as well. So you can see this is just the same code that I have on my machine, but now in GitHub. And we're just going to go ahead and deploy this. So to do this, we'll just go to the Azure Portal. I'm going to go ahead and create a resource. And I'm going to search for Static Web Apps. My machine is literally just crawling right now. I'm going to do this again. Maybe. Oh no. I think I clicked okay. All right. I'm going to go really slowly because that's how fast my machine's going. Okay, here we go. New.
Sending good vibes your way, Anthony.
Yeah.
Thank you. Static Web App.
No rush.
Preview.
It's part of the suspense.
Create button. It is project suspense. Look at this. Oh, here we go. So I'm going to create a resource group. I'm just going to call this Blazor. And I can't type either. Streamer. And I'll copy and paste this so I don't have to type this. And I'll just pick a region. Central US sounds nice and neutral. So the next thing I'll do is I'll sign into GitHub. So after I've done that, it pulls back all the organizations I'm part of. And then it pulls back all the repositories that I have. So actually, I'm just going to search for it. Here it is. And I'm going to go and pick my branch, which I think I said I was going to do the demo branch.
So as part of that, then, do I need to be careful how I organize my repo so that it's able to find, like, do I need the solution in the root or?
So this is where the next part comes in. So you can actually tell the service, which in turn tells the GitHub Action where to find your function app as well as your Blazor app, and also where the build output is. So, and that's kind of taken care of by this preset. So Blazor shows up here. So if you choose Blazor, we kind of just have some conventions currently. We're going to try to make this a little bit smarter, and that it'll start hopefully sometime in the future. Actually, we'll probe your project to actually try to figure out where these things are. But for now, we have just some smart defaults. And because I know what these defaults are, I made my app the same as well. But you're free to change these. So the client is where the Blazor app is. API is where the function app is. And then we're just saying that the Blazor app gets compiled to www root, and that's the thing that we want to deploy.
The published app, right? That'll be the that'll take the client app and publish it and grab the published assets from that location.
Yeah, that's exactly right. All right, and then we're just going to go ahead and create it. So it doesn't take long to create. So what we're doing is just creating the static web app resource. And then once that's done, although I guess at the same time, what we're doing is we're adding a GitHub action behind the scenes for you. So if I now refresh this page, you can see that it added a workflow in here. And then in here, I'll try to make this a little bigger as well. Here's the GitHub action, some stuff in it. You typically don't even have to know what's going on unless you need to go ahead and change these values that you put in earlier. Then you kind of have to go in here and figure out what to modify. But for the most part, you don't have to worry too much about it. You can see that the action's already started. And then if we go in here, you can see that it's actually building and deploying the app. And now we wait. So it's going to take about a couple of minutes. Thankfully, it's not running on my machine, so I don't have to worry about it taking super long. But
it seems like a good good chance to take some questions then, huh?
Yeah, let's get some questions.
Okay, so one that came up, and Dan answered part of it. Let me see. Why Azure Static Web Apps as opposed to GitHub Pages or other kind of hosting? I know that some of this was already. I mean, you talked through some of the things, but what's the kind of the main things there?
Yeah, I think there is quite a bit of overlap, I would say. But for static web apps and Azure Static Web Apps in general, some of the things that you do get that are on top of what you get with something like GitHub Pages is kind of like the integration with Azure Functions. So I kind of talked about a little bit earlier that you behind the same domain, you have basically your static assets as well as your function app. So that allows us to share authentication between the static assets as well as the API app powered by functions. It also allows you to kind of bypass things that you typically spend most of your time doing when you're building an app, like cores, and trying to make it work properly. And then eventually is put a star there anyway, just to make it work. So don't do that.
Where's the security? Where's Barry Dorans to like, wait. No,
I'm just waiting for Barry to just pop into the stream.
Right.
But yeah, so those are kind of like the main things, and then the other one is like this app that I'm showing you here. It's using more services than just functions and just static assets. It's also going to use in this case Signal service, which is a service in Azure. It also has a free tier, just like static web apps. So we can deploy this to Azure and basically pay nothing to start.
You know, a couple of other things that I really like about the Azure Static Web App model that I think are also a value add over what you get with just GitHub Pages. Like with GitHub Pages, you basically have a very bare bones system for deploying a bunch of static files. Azure Static Web Apps knows a little bit more about the fact that this is a Blazor app, so it can do some additional things. Like it knows, for example, that Blazor WebAssembly apps, when you publish them, we do a pre-compression step to produce a bunch of broadly pre-compressed files as part of the app so that it's as small as possible. And Azure Static Web Apps knows how to redirect requests to those pre-compressed files on the fly for you transparently. So you get that additional size shrinkage out of the box without you having to do any work. If you tried to do that on GitHub Pages, you'd have to add some like JavaScript code on the client, or you have to do some sort of shenanigans in order to get pre-compression or any sort of compression really to work for you. You also get a full fallback routing system, right? Like on GitHub Pages, you kind of have to do this weird thing with like the 404 page or something in order to get the fallback routing to work correctly. If you're not familiar with the fallback routing problem, this is like a deep link, right? Like I want to put a link right to the counter page. In order for that to work, if you just load up /counter, you need to actually redirect that to the root of the app so that the Blazor's routing system can kick in. Azure Static Web Apps has a full routing system that you can use to handle that problem.
Yeah, and this is one of the things I kind of forgot to show a little bit earlier. This is the routing file. So you can see my routing configuration. It's pretty simple. I'm just blocking access to the function that can be used to send a frame unless you're authenticated. And this is the fallback route that we're talking about. So it's just a rule that says anything that doesn't match anything on on the server, just serve the index page and return a 200.
Great. Here's one, and I think the answer here is up on the screen, but actually general question of what languages can you write in? So you've got your function is in C#, but what languages are available for functions with the Azure Static Web Apps?
Yeah, so currently we're supporting JavaScript, .NET, as well as Python functions. We still have plans to expand to the rest of the languages that we support. And then the other kind of limitation to the functions, the kind of like the flavor of functions that we support right now, if you're an existing functions user, is that we only support HTTP triggered functions currently. So if you want to do timers or something triggered from Cosmos or things like durable functions, for example, that's not currently possible because this is actually a managed flavor of functions that we're running for you right now. It's like you actually don't even see the resource that's behind the scenes that kind of represents the function app. So you can kind of go in there and kind of mess with a lot of configurations. So we're still kind of trying to sort out how we can kind of allow you to add other triggers to your function app.
Cool. Any other questions pop out at you folks?
There was, Anthony, people asked about Azure pipelines and Azure DevOps support. Like, is it just GitHub Actions? Do you want to talk to that a little bit?
Yeah, for sure. So so starting out, like kind of like the target audience that we initially wanted to kind of appeal to, I guess, or kind of make it easy to use for, are folks that are kind of more JavaScript focused. So they tend to be using GitHub, and I would say like even .NET folks are probably using a lot of GitHub. But we do have a lot of customers who are using Azure DevOps and also other kind of CI/CD systems. So we are in the process of kind of decoupling Azure Static Web Apps from GitHub itself, so that you can kind of be able to kind of configure it with other CI/CD pipelines as well. So that includes working on, like we're currently working on a Azure DevOps task, so that you can actually get the same functionality that's in the GitHub Action. So not only are we able to deploy the static web apps and the functions for you, we can actually detect and build your app for you as well.
All right, here's one. Blazor Mr. Magoo asking, do you need to use it with functions, or can you just do the Blazor app? It sounds like some of the things, even just like the auto-configured SSL cert and some of those things are handy, even if you don't have a function backed in.
Yeah, functions are totally optional. Although I'm a little biased being on the functions team. I think every app should have functions in it. But yeah, we can actually go ahead and click on this app right now to see what happens. So one of the things that I'm expecting to see is the error that you might see on the bottom here. And that's because it's trying to connect to the function app. And that function app needs to talk to Signal service and needs the key. So I'm just going to quickly add that key right here. So I just go into configuration. And actually, I might want to do some of this off screen. Teleport that over here. Teleport this over here. And you can see my background for a second here while I go ahead and add.
Very nice.
Typing properly.
See,
any other questions while I kind of
closed our eyes and promise not to look?
Yeah.
Actually, yeah, that works well too. Should I do that? No. I don't think I trust Dan. He's going to just take this and do all sorts of silly stuff with it.
I don't know if you can trust Dan with your keys.
What?
All right, so I added the key. Hopefully that's, so there it is right there.
Oh, I see. You were using the screen share encryption mechanism.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I've used that before, yeah.
So now if I go ahead and refresh this app, hopefully what I'm going to get is no error. Oh, and there's John, so it's connected. Wow, he's just always connected to that thing. This is amazing. Okay, awesome. All right, so the last thing that we probably want to do here is to look at how we can add a custom domain. So let's quickly do that. And then we can take some more questions. So it's going to take about a couple minutes. So to add a custom domain is pretty easy. You just kind of have to create a CNAME record. So I'm going to go off screen again over here to my register, or my DNS provider. And then I'm just going to go ahead and add this record. The CNAME. Paste that in. Save it. Okay, so that's working. So I'm going to go over here now. Type it in, Blazor Demo.anthonychu.com. Validate. And this is going to check that I actually set up the CNAME properly. And I'm going to go ahead and just click add. And this is going to take a couple of minutes.
All right, cool. So we can take some questions during that time.
More questions.
All right. When will functions support .NET 5?
Oh, the dreaded .NET 5
Yeah.
question. We are working on it. So we're well aware that that .NET 5 is going to RTM next month. So we're working on actually building a brand new worker for functions. So for those of you who use functions today, this might make a little bit more sense. But currently, .NET functions run in the same process as the Azure Functions host. Whereas all the other languages that we support, we actually run them in a separate process, and they talk over gRPC. So some of the things that folks have run into in this current .NET model that we have is that because they run in the same process, if you kind of like try to load any of the DLLs, perhaps that we're loading as well, sometimes there are collisions, and sometimes you're going to resolve them. Sometimes you may not be able to. So by separating them into separate processes, so now the .NET 5 worker, we're planning for that to run the same way that the Node worker runs, as well as the Python worker, Java worker. It'll just run as a separate process. So hopefully a lot of the issues that we've kind of had customers run into because the functions are running in the same place as the host, we'll hopefully most of those will go away. And then the other thing that you'll have that you'll see that's different is that in this new model, because it's a separate process, you actually kind of get to what we call kind of quote unquote own main. So you will actually have a program CS in your app. So you have full control over how the function app starts up. We're also looking into things like, can we support things like middleware and things like that in your function apps? So because we're kind of building this from the ground up, we can't necessarily commit to actually, having something that's GA quality by the time that .NET 5 is RTM, but we want to have at least a preview out, hopefully not too much later than, say, a few weeks after .NET 5 RTMs.
Cool. All right. Here, a question on the HTTP triggered functions. Do they go cold, or are they like always there, or how does that work?
Yeah, so they work the same way as typical Azure functions. So about 10 or 15 minutes of idle time will shut them down. So there might be a little bit of cold start, but it's typically not too bad. And the way that Azure Functions works, because a single instance serves many requests, that cold start only typically happens once after it kind of has to wake up from sleep, when we have to scale it from 0 to 1 instance. That might be a little bit noticeable for a couple of seconds, but after that, all the requests should just work pretty well.
Cool. I guess one more here.
Yep.
Will Azure support .NET 5 RC1 and PWA in Blazor WASM?
Yeah, I was typing a response to that one. You can use .NET 5 in Azure App Service like right now. You can do that by deploying a self-contained application, by basically deploying .NET 5 with your app. And then .NET 5 will be deployed to Azure App Service very soon after .NET 5 ships later this year.
Cool. All right. Let me see. I had hid your screen while it was deploying. Are we still waiting on that? Or is that...
No, it's done deploying. So we can actually, because there's a bit of a delay, we can send people to this URL while we answer more questions.
Okay.
So the URL is blazordemo.anthonychu.com. I don't know if there's a way of actually me zooming in on the screen here, or is there a chat? Like what?
I'm sending it over. So blazordemo.anthonychu.com.
And we're tweeting it on the ASP.NET handle, and we're
well. So yeah, we're live.
Let's just bring this thing down.
Oops.
All right, I just shared it with folks on the chat.
Oh, thank you.
Awesome, thank you. Oh, there's Jeff.
Hi, Jeff.
I guess on the next iteration, I gotta do the live transcription as well, so that people can speak, and then it'll just show up underneath.
Big havoc.
Well, I guess I gotta join the fun too.
Yep. Shane.
Very cool.
It's a party. It's an ASCII party.
It is.
So, Anthony, I think one of the big questions I've seen is cost. Like,
yes.
How much is this going to
how much
hurt our wallets?
Yeah. So how much do you want to pay for this? $9.95. No, so we have a free tier, and our intention is to also maintain this free tier as we go to GA and beyond. So we're still kind of working out the details in terms of what what the free tier looks like. Currently, the free tier that we offer, it's actually the only tier that we offer, have some pretty strict limitations in terms of app size. So you can deploy both the kind of like the static assets as well as the function app size. So we plan to relax those quite a bit. So the free tier that hopefully we'll kind of move forward with will actually be a lot more generous than what we have currently. So we just have a bunch of protections in place as we're a preview service. But hopefully going forward, we'll have a better free tier as well as other tiers if you need kind of, maybe more bandwidth or some other things. We're just trying to work out some of the details in terms of what goes into these plans.
Well, this is a good new format. Now we can switch over to the low bandwidth.
Holy moly, that's a lot of people.
I was going to say, it's nice that with this community stand-up, we can see what other people look like. Like we now know exactly what, at least in ASCII form, what our viewers look like. Great. Yeah.
This is great. Wow.
Yeah, so are there any more questions in the chat? Or is everyone just busy trying to log in?
Everyone's just having fun with the demo. Oh, man, let me see. Gosh, I think we had taken most of the questions. I guess, and I'm sure you've covered some of this, but like, what are some of the main things roadmap-wise over the next few months? Obviously, like .NET 5 stuff, but what are some of the main areas?
Yeah, so I actually have a slide for that, in case I forget. So we are going to, so currently the Blazor Web Assembly that we support in the kind of like the built-in build system is .NET 3.1. And we're literally, hopefully within the next day or two, shipping out, like kind of deploying support for .NET 5 as well for Blazor Web Assembly. So if you have your Blazor Web Assembly apps in .NET 5, hopefully by the end of this week, for example, or hopefully, you'll be able to deploy that without kind of adding an extra step that we're kind of telling people to do currently. It should just work just the way that the same way that I kind of showed you earlier in the demo. Kind of mentioned Azure DevOps integration earlier. Hopefully that'll come. Like there's no timeline for it yet, but we have a lot of requests for it. So hopefully that'll ship soon. And we're also working on a much better local development experience. You kind of saw that I had to start up my front end app as well as the function app locally. What you didn't see is I actually had to set up cores between the two. So it's kind of an annoying experience to kind of develop it locally. It's no better than currently if you were to develop a similar app to a similar platform. But what we want to provide is through VS Code and hopefully a local emulator as well, give you a lot of the functionality that you have in the cloud. So you kind of be able to serve, so you can serve the front end app as well as your function app locally behind the same endpoint, and also have some sort of an emulation for the authentication as well as the routing. So you can kind of see how your app's going to work without deploying it. And more. So we're working on a lot more stuff. One really good place to kind of keep up with what we're working on is at our kind of GitHub repo. Currently, this repo is just being used for issues, but if you go to the issues page, you'll see kind of all the things that people are asking for. Go ahead and kind of give you a thumbs up or thumbs down, I guess. And yeah, like in any new kind of requests and things like that, you can put it there.
All right. I'll put that in the chat real quick. Oh, this is great.
Can I ask Anthony, if folks are looking to get started with some of the stuff you shared here, where's the best place to go?
That's a great question. So we have some pretty good docs at docs.microsoft.com. So docs, Azure Static Web Apps. We go to docs.microsoft.com/Azure/Static Web Apps. There's a lot of docs here that you can use to get started. Usually a good place to start is the overview page, kind of walks you through all the features that we have, as well as in general how everything works. And then you can kind of go into one of the quick starts. For Blazor, we have a tutorial that's built just for Blazor, as well as a Learn module in Microsoft Learn. I don't know if we have a link here, but if you go to docs.microsoft.com/learn, you should be able to find the module.
Cool. Yeah, these docs look super detailed. So
I'm sharing those over in the chat.
Oh, thanks.
This was all, I mean, this is all new stuff. We've had people asking questions. They're like, wait, I didn't know about this. And this was all just announced at Ignite, which was, this is very new stuff. So, yeah.
Yep.
Azure Static. Trying to share all these links, and then I can add these into the roll-up thing with the community links too. So I'm having trouble, or it's taken me a bit to find it. If you just go to Learn, then you can search through on Blazor and Static Web Apps. So awesome. Well, I think we've covered all the questions. We got the roadmap and where to go next. We had an amazing demo. I think unless there's anything else, we can probably wrap up at about there.
Looks good. Thank you.
Good.
That was great.
And
yeah,
again,
thanks so much for having me.
Reminder again, Safia shared earlier, we're doing it's a monthly Blazor focus show now. And she shared out the information on how you can get involved in the developer, in the dev sprints. Yeah. And that's an amazing opportunity to work directly with the Blazor team and contribute and be featured here and show off your exciting, cool stuff you're doing for the community too. So
yeah, thanks to everyone who's already contributed in the past to those. We've had some really great contributions to Blazor so far.
Everyone is very talented and smart, and I love seeing all the contributions you make. Super cool.
Awesome. All right. Well, we'll wrap up there, and we'll see you with. We've got community stand-ups now every Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. And we've got the Blazor show every month now. Yay!
Yay!
Bye, everybody.
Bye, folks.